Never in my life did I imagine I'd be standing up here and speaking to each of you about brain shit. But you know, I don't mind talking about synapses or hormones or ions or transmitters. And so I'm happy to introduce you to the most valuable player of the nervous system, the neuron. Now, the neuron's got to sustain itself. It's got a cell body. It's got to receive. It's got dendrites that look like a tree. And it's got to send on the information, because one neuron can't do anything alone. So how do they communicate? Tiny, tiny little spaces. In Greek, it means to grasp. And there are tons and tons of them. And those of you who love numbers, you know. Here's an electron micrograph of an actual synapse. And the red arrow shows the space between two neurons where the neurotransmitter is released. We had to have an electron microscope to see this, because you can't with the light microscope. And just to let you know the level of complexity, we have between 10 and 100 billion neurons. Each neuron connects with 1,000 to 10,000 neurons, and learning and memory emerges from these processes. So, just in case you think this is simple, what we do is we string together all kinds of different neurons and synapses, and we create circuits. And it's those circuits that allow us to remember, to see. And some people look at mapping the brain as mapping the mind, and that the hardware of the brain are the circuits. But we know a lot more than that. One of the things we know is that hormones affect the brain here in development. On the left are steroids, not the kind you take that you shouldn't be taking. These are naturally occurring, normal steroids, and they make the brain grow. We use confocal microscopy in order to be able to label different things differently. So we can label blood vessels in green, and we can label neuron endings in red, and we can see where they overlap. And this is important. Here's a confocal image I took. The red blood cells are by the white arrow. The red endings are releasing a hormone into the blood vessels at the pituitary. And the green things look like they're ridiculous, non-neural, non-MPV. But actually, they change in the normal cycle of a person, of a woman, right before ovulation, and allow secretion to happen. And then we learn about, well, how the heck does the synapse release its stuff? What makes it do so? And that's the ions that move down the membrane and cause the electrical movement so that we get to the synapse. And if you think this is easy, here are some three-dimensional models of what a single ion looks like in a neuron membrane, and how it has to be changed sequentially. And we don't have just one neurotransmitter. In fact, if I had to put up the list of all the neurotransmitters that are around, there'd be 500 on this sheet. So because you tend to think that learning something is easy, I want you to know, if you look on the other side that's receiving the neurotransmitter, we have about 2,000 proteins, and we have no idea how they all work together yet in order to be able to not only send the signal from one side, but receive it on the other. Communication is essentially complex. And learning, where does it happen? Actually, it happens in a part of the brain called the seahorse, or hippocampus. And along one receiving place are all these local branches or spines that can control what happens locally. So even if a neuron sends something out, it'll be received in different places differently. So what do we know after all this? We know that these little things we call spines, they can change, they're plastic, they provide biochemical compartments, they show structural plasticity. The circuits aren't set. So if you could say that not only that, but as Steve mentioned, you have two brains. And so they can either fight or they can collaborate. You have lots of mechanisms for them to collaborate. And you can easily bring the two sides of your brain together by having that ability to look at more than what you think you know. Psychologists today have shown us the brain can't tell the difference between whether something really happens or you imagine it happens. So you can change the hardwire by actually your positive thoughts. And you can learn because you believe you can learn. Thank you.